Okay, the meeting is recording.
Okay, we got enough before we get started?
Yes.
Okay. We'll call this March 10th, 2022 meeting of the AMATS Advisory Committee meeting to order. It is 2:30 p.m. Aaron, will you do the roll call?
Yes. Craig Lyon.
Here.
Jamie Acton.
Here.
Thank you. Brad Coy.
Here.
Todd Van Hove.
Present.
Luke Boland. Sorry. Shannon Kilcoyne.
Present.
Matt Stitchick.
Present virtually.
Brian Lindemood.
Virtually present.
Thank you. Yemi Alimi.
Present virtually.
Thank you. And Kent Colhayes or Melinda Sue filling in for Kent Colhayes. Doesn't look like she's on, but we do have quorum.
Okay, perfect. We also do the public involvement announcement.
Yes, I will. AMATS committee meetings are open to the public, and the public is provided an opportunity to comment at each meeting. Business items are first presented by staff or consultants. After that, the committee discusses the business item. Then the public is invited to formally comment. Just a few reminders. Each participant will have 3 minutes to speak on their topic, which we'll make sure to time and let you know when that's up. And then if you're joining us virtually and not a member of the committee, please turn your camera off when you're not speaking on an item. And if you're joining us by phone, to mute and unmute the microphone, press *6. Thank you.
Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Okay. By Mr. Lyon, seconded by Mr. Van Hove. Do we have any changes? Are there any objections to approving the agenda? Okay, with no changes and no objections, the agenda is approved. Moving on to the next item, we have meeting minutes from the February. Have any changes to the meeting minutes that anyone would like to make?
I'll move to approve. Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Lyon, seconded by Mr. Bowen. Are there any objections to approving them? Okay, no objections. The February 10th, 2022 meeting minutes are approved. Moving right along, looks like we're on item number 5, our action items. 5A, the CAC resolution of support for Highland emergent treatment.
Yeah, just a heads up. So I'm the only AMATS staff person here today, so I'm kind of running everything behind the scenes. So I apologize if there's a little delay or hiccup as we go along. So this first item is a resolution coming from our Community Advisory Committee. So a while back, the Community Advisory Committee reviewed the Integrated Corridor Management Study that AMATS produced with DOT and PF for the Glen Highway. And in that plan, it made some recommendations on future improvements, including merge lane upgrades along the highway at specific interchanges. As the CAC was reviewing that, they found that one of them, especially at the Highland interchange, they had some concerns that if merge lane upgrades were made in this area, they didn't want it to impact any future interchange upgrades that were happening there as well. So they passed a resolution, and basically they're asking that any merge lane improvements southbound on Highland do not conflict with any possible future partial cloverleaf renovations to the Highland Glen interchange. It's a mouthful, sorry. And so staff is bringing forward this resolution for TAC review and recommendation. Staff doesn't really have a recommendation for this. We just wanted to bring it forward to see what the TAC thought about it and if they had any recommendation moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the?
So this is Matt Stitchick. I'm curious if there are different proposals for a interchange, one of which would be more compatible with a cloverleaf than another option. I guess I don't quite understand what about construction of the on-ramp upgrade would make a cloverleaf incompatible or would be incompatible with a future cloverleaf design?
Sean Baskey, or sorry, Todd or somebody from
Well,
DOT?
Yeah, this time I know. There was an intersection study done on that interchange, and there are like 5 alternatives. And everything that the department's currently looking at is in agreement with what the study says. And yeah, I think one of the studies was a flyover, one was a clover leaf, one was improvements to the existing, but yeah, we haven't decided on anything specific yet, but we are trying to get a design project started to do upgrade of some sort to that interchange.
Not been restarted.
It'd be okay. We can keep going.
Okay, sounds good.
Is there, this is Matt again, is there anything inherent about an upgrade of an on-ramp as an interim congestion relief that would complicate a future cloverleaf design? Or let's say make that less likely in the future?
There is no interim improvements being discussed at this time.
So essentially an on-ramp upgrade would preclude a cloverleaf design. Is that, it's just one of the available options?
A cloverleaf is one of the options that we would be looking at.
Right, but why would a non-cloverleaf? Okay, I guess what I'm hearing from the Community Advisory Committee is they prefer a cloverleaf solution and don't want any alternate relief that might delay that implementation. Is that accurate?
Yes, I guess you could say is the ultimate what they're looking at or what they're commenting on.
Sure. Yeah, for the record, Sean Baskey, the Chief Highway Designer for DOT. So right now we've got a couple different things that we're looking at. We've certainly looked at some alternatives in the to solve some of the issues at the interchange. Basically, the department has no interest in breaking any of the merging kinds of actions. We're looking at parallel merge actions, potential extensions of merge lanes, all the way down to potentially the way station. We've looked at a number of different options there. One project that we're looking at starting right now is the Parklow, addition there. And they potentially have to look at any of the merging actions coming off of the existing southbound on as well to make sure that we don't break any of those. Probably part of any of those actions is looking at level of service of the merge actions. So that's just another measure to make sure that we're continuing to serve the public. But the potential partial clover leaf addition would then reduce, if not eliminate, most of the traffic using the existing southbound offering. Really the only maneuvers that aren't facilitated are the ones coming from the west from
Melinda Sue joined us at 2:38 p.m.
Thanks. Sorry, a little bit late. Just got off another meeting.
That's all right, I just need to have the minutes shown, so. thanks for that. Does passing this resolution have any impact on the project, either one way or the other way? We know the answer to that.
I would say that the department supports continuing to work with the community in serving all of the needs of all of the maneuvers members through that energy. So it does not deter us from our actions trying to solve the problem.
I think it's a positive thing to have something come forward saying we, AMATS or the CAC recommends that, we support improvements in this area and make sure that we account for the users. So from my perspective as staff, I think it would be a positive, and I don't see it precluding anything.
Do we have any other any
Nothing online now.
what is the will of the committee? I can't make them.
So this is Matt Stichik. I will recommend to the, I will forward a motion that the TAC recommend to the policy committee approval of the CAC's resolution supporting renovations that are compatible with a future cloverleaf design.
Okay, the motion's been made. Good second.
I'll second.
Moved by Mr. Stichik, seconded by Mr. Lyon. Are there any objections to approving the motion? Hearing no objections, the motion is approved.
Thank you.
Moving on to action item 5B, the Alaska Railroad 2022 Transit Asset Management AM Performance Targets. Take it away, Aaron.
Thank you. So we've seen these before. It's just been a little while. So a quick refresher. AMATS as an MPO is required to adopt targets and performance or for particular performance measures spelled out in federal regulations for transit asset management. We work closely with our transit providers, so Public Transportation Department and then the Alaska Railroad on these measures or these targets. So before you today are the 2022 Alaska Railroad Transit Asset Management targets. And you'll see in the accompanying document how they came up with that information. And so we're basically, AMATS itself doesn't have these assets to manage, so we look to our partners to do all of it, and we will support them in their targets. So staff is asking today that the Technical Advisory Committee recommend adopting these railroad TAM targets to the policy committee. We've seen these before in the past. 2021 had a version that we adopted, so this is just 2022. And as a heads up, the Public Transportation Department already has their TAM set through, I think, to 2024, I believe. So that's all I had.
Aaron? Any questions or comments from the committee? Are there any questions or comments from the public?
Nothing in the chat.
What's the will of the committee?
I was waiting for Mr. Lindemoot to make the motion.
I was just hitting unmute, and I will move to approve recommendation of these. I assume that's what we do, recommend to the policy committee, the Alaska Railroad's TAM target package.
Yeah, I second.
Give me a second.
Are there any objections to the motion? Okay, hearing none, the motion is approved. Thank you all for that. Now moving on to item 5C. Go ahead, Aaron.
Thank you. So we have a appointment to the Freight Advisory Committee, or replacement really. So currently Dan Smith, who works for the DOT Commercial Vehicle Safety Program, I believe is transitioning out of the spot on the FAC, and thank you, needs a replacement. Catherine Hensley, is that his name? Okay, thank you. Catherine Hensley, who is here today, will be replacing him. Catherine currently oversees the oversized overweight permitting and routing in addition to federal grants for DOT. And she has served as an alternate for Dan Smith in the past. So our recommendation is to recommend to the policy committee approval of Catherine Hensley as replacement for Dan Smith on the FAC.
Any questions or comments?
I would like to thank Mr. Smith for his service to the freight committee. It's been a great, a good advocate on the committee for a long time, and it's been really helpful having your perspective. So I really appreciate that. And I know that Catherine has been active in the freight committee for a long time as well, and it's been to a lot of meetings. So I think this is an absolute great addition. So I really appreciate your willingness to step up.
Thank you. And it's great that you're volunteer. That is so shows the community massive.
And I hope you're retiring. Or doing something fun.
Be around a little while.
Okay, okay. Well, thanks again. Appreciate it.
Anyone other committee members have questions or comments?
It's not to know, I would also like to echo Craig's comments. And the CDP and the support we received from you at the department. Somebody's stepping into that role.
Any questions or comments? Any questions or comments?
For the record, this is Catherine Hensley. I'm the program coordinator for the Division of Measuring Standards and Commercial Vehicle Compliance. I have had the pleasure of serving as an alternate director for the last few years. I hope that my experience and background lends itself to this seat, and I'm actually really excited to be able to take a more active role. It's one thing to take notes and report back. It's another thing to step up and actually be a member, and I'm very excited for that opportunity.
Any other comments?
Dan Smith, you guys are getting a very capable person here. I've appreciated my time serving. It was a fast 10 years, I think. I'll be around a while.
Well, thank you. Serving on a committee is time and effort, and it shows with the appreciation that you receive. And how AMATS runs. So thank you so much. What is the will of the community?
Move to recommend approval to the policy committee.
Second. And moved by Mr. Lyons, seconded by Mr. Van Hope. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Well, I guess.
Almost.
2 weeks.
One step
Okay, moving on to the next item on the agenda, project and plan updates. 6A, survey, infrastructure investment in jobs act.
Yes, that will be for me if I can get things working, because I have to transition to another machine and try and show everyone in the room what I'm looking at as well. I have no idea if it's working.
I can hear something.
Okay, so hopefully it's slowly.
Yes, thank
Well,
you.
that's coming up. I'll go ahead and share screen.
Does everyone not move?
So this one will be just really brief. So we were recently in a meeting with DOT headquarters, talking about the long-range transportation plan. One of the things that came up was a survey that you see before you, to just kind of gather some information from individuals who utilize the system for everyone, basically. So we're just trying to put this out there to as many people as possible to help take the survey. So, you know, we have a nice little map here, which we've been trying to do more of. And then it's basically just talking, how do you commute or how do you move around? What transportation mode do you use? And then what kind of comments do you want to provide on it? Because it's really just trying to get some generic information from the members of the public. So it's a very short survey, very, very short, that just has kind of what mode do you want to comment about, and then sharing your comments. And then if you want to have any kind of picture or photo uploaded, so say if you want to comment about, you know, a specific road or something like that, and have a picture of that road, you can upload that information. And then you can provide your name, as well as if you want to be part of the mailing list for the long range transportation plan. So it's something similar that we have done in the past for AMATS MTP. And you'll probably see more of this kind of stuff for the MTP as we go forward. A lot of this kind of also helps lead into project identification, as well as getting general information about how individuals commute throughout the state. So that's all I had on it. As I said, it was very quick and it's a very short survey. I highly recommend everyone take it.
Okay, so
Is the next item overhead too?
Just wanted to note that Jamie Acton had to leave for a meeting, so she's gone.
Okay.
No, the next one is not an overhead either, so.
Do you have any questions or comments on this item?
Thank you, Aaron, for talking about this. We welcome all the comments we can get. This is in support of the LRTP, as he said, and yeah, we've received a bunch of comments on the surveys already, and we look forward to getting the information out there and getting as many comments as we can.
This is one of your projects?
The state one. State along with it.
And so was this a survey that you put together, Aaron? I think that was-
No, this is a DOT headquarters put together. We're just trying to get the word out there to everyone about the survey and just take it. It's beneficial for everyone. So I highly encourage everyone to take it and submit it to friends, family, other groups that you know as much as you can.
Is there a link to kind of explanation of what the survey is attached to? As I clicked on and looked at it, I got confused because I didn't know what process is this and what put it into.
Well, that would be one comment I would have for DOT headquarters is they might want to put some information either on the survey or on the page itself somewhere out there that it would be helpful on the survey, because if people are just getting the link, they're maybe not seeing everything else of what this is for and what this helps with. Yeah, something like that. So what I can try and do is find if there's a link to this on a DOT webpage that may have some more information, and I can send that out to everyone.
And so it's for the public, it's for us. So we can submit like staff, organization.
Anybody. Anybody that uses it.
Yeah.
You do have a question from Melinda Sue.
Okay, go ahead, Linda.
Thanks. I was just going to mention it might be valuable to share it with the Federation of Community Councils, and then they could distribute it or include that link on their website.
Yep.
If it's not already.
Good idea, thanks for that. Also, assembly members, you know, if they would have aware.
I'm not sure who it all got sent out to. Just as a heads up for anyone speaking, can you speak a little louder? It sounds like people are having a hard time hearing on the chat, and I think something's wrong with our microphone system,
Okay.
so it may not be working. So
Just that microphone on your laptop.
it might be just my laptop microphone that's working, which would be for me. So, okay. And actually, I just got a link of what this, some more information of what this is kind of going towards. So I can forward that information to everybody once we get done here. Thank you, Catherine. Again, I apologize that there's a little bit of a hiccup in the technology today.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, moving on. Bipartisan.
Yes, this is me. I just wanted to give the committee, the TAC, and then I'll do the same thing for the policy committee, a quick update on kind of where we're at in terms of AMATS's funding with the recently passed infrastructure bill, which everyone is referring to as bill, bipartisan infrastructure law. So, you know, the bill. So it'd be super fun to talk about. Because, you know, when everything was kind of first starting, everyone was talking about lots of money flowing into the states and everything like that. So recently, as I said earlier, we had attended a statewide MPO coordination meeting, which basically the MPOs in the state get together and talk about where things are at, how things are going, that kind of stuff. And we had a discussion about the funding and what the infrastructure bill is bringing into AMATS or the other MPOs. So I just wanted to give you guys some numbers from that. These are kind of increases that we can see in our regular funding. So for our STBG allocation, which is our main source of funding, we're at 30.6 million or so right now. We are going up to about 31.5 million. So about 800,000 or so of an increase in FY22. And then every year after that will be an inflation increase. And that's all we're seeing. So it's not a whole lot of money for that particular pot of funding. And then TAP, Transportation Alternatives Program. So that we were receiving about $900,000 roughly a year. It's going up about $1 million a year. So 1.9 million total per year. I just want people to know that although that sounds like a lot of money, $1 million for transportation infrastructure projects is not as much as people think. So we recognize it's a good increase and we're appreciative of the increase, but it doesn't mean that we're going to be doing hundreds of projects now with that $1 million increase. So we just need to make sure we all have a good understanding of expectations for that. CMAQ sees little to no change, so we won't be seeing too much more funding for CMAQ, unfortunately. I did want to talk about some new funding sources where we did see some pretty substantial money put towards them that AMATS will be partaking in. The first is a carbon reduction program. So this is preliminary information. We're still waiting to hear more about this, so I don't have a whole lot, but from the information is put out, this program is the construction, planning, and design of trail facilities for pedestrians, bicyclists, and other non-motorized forms of transportation, public transportation projects, and congestion management technologies. So very similar to CMAQ, but we still have to wait for more information on specifics for that program. As of right now, AMATS is expecting about 3.6 million a year for that program. So again, that's a pretty substantial chunk of change, but we'll have to see what that means in terms of real projects that are able to be put out. Right now, we're under a continuing resolution. I know that Congress is moving forward to get everything funded right quick, so it'll probably change here soon. But as of today, we are still under a continuing resolution. So some of these new funding sources are not available at this point. And carbon reduction is one of those new funding sources. So it's kind of a hurry up and wait at this point. Two other things I wanted to mention. We did have some EV, electric vehicles, buses, and ferries. This is a huge program that has 5 different programs that fall under it. So there's an umbrella one, and then it has 5 other ones that fall under it. One is a formula funding program, so we'll have to see how that goes, and the other are grant opportunities. I'm not aware of AMATS getting a specific allocation for this. However, this will be something that we want to make sure we are ready to compete for or put projects forward for. So just a heads up on what that means. Staff will be looking at providing some recommendations to the committees when we know more about this program for projects that we could possibly put forward to recommend. Just remember, electric infrastructure comes with a lot of stuff, a lot of requirements it has to meet. So it has to follow all regular federal processes with it. It's not just a get the money and build it tomorrow type of thing. It takes time. And then lastly, just as a reminder, there are a lot of grant opportunities out there. This infrastructure bill put a ton of competitive grant programs in place. One big one that's out right now and ends in April, I forget the closer date, but we did send out information, is the RAISE grants. So a couple things to note about this program. Because we are in an urban area here in Anchorage, there's a $5 million minimum for grant applications. So the project that you put a grant application for has to have a minimum of 5 million, so you can't put one in for 100,000. And it has a maximum of 25 million. And I still haven't got clarification on it, but it looks like it might be an 80-20 match. I don't know if anyone knows anything different, but that's what I'm seeing. It doesn't look like it has the flexibility like other federal funding where we can do the sliding scale and do the 90.97 and 9.03 match. So just be aware that when you are looking to put out grant opportunities or put in for these grant opportunities of what the match requirement is, because it may be different. I also do want to make sure everyone is keenly aware of these grant opportunities. They do need to be included in our long-range transportation plan, the MTP, and our TIP, Transportation Improvement Program. So if you're putting in an application for something related to these grant opportunities, please let AMATS and DOT know as soon as you're going to, have the information and what you're going to be putting it in for. Whew, okay. I talked at you guys long enough. So just there's a lot more information coming down the line as this kind of continues to roll out, especially when the funding actually gets put into place. Then there'll be kind of a lot more moving quicker to get everything obligated. My understanding is FY22 funds will have a little bit of time to obligate it. So it's not like, oh, September 30th of this year, you better have this money obligated. We may have some few years after that. But 2023 onward, we'll need to be on the ball to make sure everything's obligated in time. So that'll be stuff we'll talk about as the new tip comes on into development.
Thank you, Aaron.
Aaron, Matt Stitchick here. Is there any kind of website or document that summarizes all the opportunities available in that bipartisan infrastructure law?
We do have one that talks about the different programs and kind of gives general information about it. In terms of the exact funding amounts, I don't know of a specific website saying here's how much you can expect. And until really the notice of funding opportunities go out, it's hard to say exactly. But I can send out an email to the TAC and Policy Committee that has like a guidebook for the infrastructure bill that kind of goes through each program and talks about what it is and what it's hoping to do.
That would
I
be
don't know
excellent.
if anyone from DOT has anything else. Catherine posted a link as well for the bill in the chat that kind of walks through things as well. Thank you, Catherine.
This is Todd from DOT. There's a number of slide presentations at statewide DOT office and the regional planning offices are working, trying to get information out there about the different funding amounts and potential eligibility amounts. I've gotten a handful of different slides. We're working on, right now we're starting yesterday. We're working on a kind of statewide presentation that all the planners will be asked to have available statewide so that whenever they visit community councils or any organization that we're all giving out the same information, the same message. I work on that right now. I would anticipate that to be available very relatively soon. The only other thing I'd say is, in recognition of the grant stuff is one of the big differences in the grant funding is typically the grant funding is tied to the same transportation, the same years as the transportation funding. But this one, they're adding on some extensions as far as eligibility for the length of time to spend some of this money. So if you're asking for grants now, there is some additional time being allowed for getting your projects.
Perfect, thank you. Are they still having trouble hearing us over here? Because I'm actually on the phone and I could just unmute, or would that have?
It'd probably reverb, so. And then there was another thing in the chat from Adam Moser from headquarters that talked about the bill as well from the Alaska federal funding. There's a website put out there for information. So, look in the chat here, and then I can try and gather this up real quick and put it into an email and just send out what we have for now. And then if we receive more from the state when they get their presentations together, I'm sure we'll send those out when we can. Thank you, Adam.
Okay, sounds good. Any other questions from the public? Questions or comments?
Nothing in the chat.
Looks like on to the next item, community comments. Floor is now open. Anyone online?
I don't see anyone.
Yeah, the one that I would like to make is that at the end of last meeting, we were talking about the concept of urban safety corridors. And so I have been in conversations with the DOT and internally with the municipality, me, and also the police department looking into it. Have some promise to continue looking into. So it's more about how would it be implemented. So there are efforts looking into what that might look like. So I just want to give that update. That so far it looks like there could be a promising change. Okay, any members of the public who would like to make a comment? It looks like we should actually end the meeting on the lights have gone off second time. No comments. Call the meeting to a close at 3:07. Thank you.
Thank you all.
That's an awesome job.